I'm Sarah Sprout, and this is my Module 8 Reading Comprehension on Informational Text lesson plan for 5th grade. Okay, class. Being able to comprehend informational text is a very important skill, not only in reading, but also in science, social studies, and math, which is why today we'll be reading about different natural disasters and answering questions about the informational passages that we're reading. Before we get started, let's go ahead and discuss a couple of text features that we will be seeing today within these passages that we're reading. So we're going to have different headings throughout the passage, and these headings let us know what the part that we're going to be reading about. Specific words throughout the text may be in thick, bold letters, so that way we pay more attention to them as they're going to be bigger, important words that we're going to need to remember. We also have a diagram. If you take a look at this first handout that I've given you, we have a diagram of a tornado on the bottom of the handout. This tells us a little bit more about the different parts of a tornado, so it gives us the visual picture and it explains the different parts. That way you can see and understand what this passage is trying to tell you. So I'm going to read this first handout aloud, and I expect everyone to follow along within the handout that I've given you. Let's go ahead and get started. A tornado is an amazing, awesome act of nature that can leave citizens dumbfounded. It's a huge, swirling beast of a storm that can appear to have a mind of its own. Okay, now that we've finished reading this passage, let's go ahead and answer some of the questions on the bottom of the handout. So, what makes a tornado spin? Does anyone have any ideas? The updrafts and downdrafts. Yep, so that would be from the wind. Are there any other words that stuck out to anyone? Vortex. Good. So the updrafts and downdrafts in wind that form a vortex. Good job remembering those words, guys. So let's go ahead and write the answer in on your worksheet as I write it up on the board. What is the F scale? Does anyone have any idea? Remember the F scale? If you need to look back in your text, go ahead and do so. How scientists measure the severity of a tornado by its speeds and by its wind damage. Yes. So the F scale takes a look at how fast the wind is moving and how bad it is for us on the ground. Like it can pick up buildings and cars. And if you guys have ever seen some movies, sometimes it even will pick up some cows or a bus. So that's how they rate it on the F scale. The last question for this passage is, describe how a tornado moves. So, would you guys remember? Look back in your passage if you need to. How does a tornado move? They devour the ground by following a path. Good, that's right, they do. They do follow a very specific path. What's this path controlled by? We need to talk a little bit more about this before we move on. It's controlled by the thunder cloud that it originally came from. That's right. Good job. And I think it's important to note in the bottom of the passage, it says, sometimes a tornado will appear to hop. So if you guys want to add that in with your answer, that would be great. This next passage that we're going to be reading about is exploring hurricanes. I've already got you guys paired up with a partner, so I'm going to have you take turns reading one paragraph at a time out loud with your partners. And then you guys will be answering the questions together. So once you guys are finished reading the passage, I want you to go ahead and with your partner talk about the questions and discuss your answers, and you guys can decide what you want to write down. While you guys are doing this, I'll be walking around and watching and listening to make sure that everyone's on task. If you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and just raise a quiet hand and I'll come around to help. Remember to read quietly so that way other partner groups can work on their stuff too. All right, let's go ahead and get started. You guys did a great job reading with your partner groups. Here I have another handout, and this one is about earthquakes. This one you guys will be working on independently, so no help from a partner and no help from me unless you really get stuck. And there will be no help from other classmates either. Once you're done reading, I want you to go ahead and raise your pencils up in the air so that way I know when everyone is ready to go over the questions together. So you guys will read the passage and then wait with your pencil up, and we will go over the questions and answers all together as a whole group. Go ahead and get started. So it appears that everyone is done reading about the earthquake handout. Let's go ahead and review these questions together. The first one, it says, name 2 different events that would cause an earthquake. So what is one? I want 2 different students to answer this for me. Just each of you give me one event that would cause an earthquake. Go ahead. A volcanic eruption. Yes, that could do that. What's another event that could cause an earthquake to happen? An underground explosion. Okay, good. Moving right along to the next one. What are 3 ways that tectonic plates interfere or interact with each other? So how do these different plates interact with each other? They can separate. Yep, that's one way. So let's go ahead and write that down. What's another way that they interact with each other? So they separate, which means that they drift apart. They can run into each other. Yep, just like this. Any other way? So we have that they separate, they move apart, then they can run into each other. What's another way? They slip. They slip and fall on top of each other. Yep. Okay, good job. Did everyone get that written down? Let's move on to the next question. What are seismic waves? Remember, if you guys can't remember, look back in the text. It tells you right there. It's right in the text. Seismic waves occur when the plates shift, making the ground shake. So this is what we feel a lot of the time. If any of you have ever experienced an earthquake, this is what you're feeling. So class, reading informational text is a skill that you'll be using for a long, long time. Until you're old and your eyes won't work well enough to read anymore. So really, you'll be using the skill for almost the rest of your life. Until then, you'll be using this kind of useful information. What was one aspect of informational text that helped you understand what you were reading? What from these passages helped you understand what you were reading about? The bold print? Okay, why is that? You knew that these big, thick letters helped you to remember important words? Good. Okay, anyone else? The diagram. Yep, the pictures, that's called the diagram. Why did the diagrams help you? It gave you a picture of what they were talking about so you could see it, and that helped you understand? Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Okay, 5th graders, we have one more worksheet to go over. One more, and this one is about tsunamis. Again, this one will be done independently because this is going to be your assessment. Don't worry, don't freak out over the word assessment. This is what we've been working on all throughout this lesson today. I have faith in you guys. I think you can handle it. This will help me make sure that you are all understanding how to comprehend this kind of informational text. So you're going to be reading the passage to yourself and answer the questions on your own as best you can. If you get stuck, you can look back in the text like we've been doing. If it asks you a question and you're not totally sure on what it's asking you or what your answer should be, just look back through the text because it'll be right there. These answers are right here in your guys' reading. So once I hand these out, you can go ahead and begin.